Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're listening to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. This is the NFL Draft Recap, 2 weeks following the NFL Draft edition of the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football analyst, Josh Schaefer, our college football expert, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, rocking some very beautiful merchandise that is available for purchase on redbubble.com that Brady gets, I believe, 50 cents if you purchase. Brady Klein, and I am your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Gentlemen, it's been some time. It's been 2 weeks since draft night. How's everyone doing? How's everyone recovering from the night and weekend that is draft weekend?
Recovering okay. I went into the draft feeling pretty indifferent about my team, the Rams, though first-round pick, similar to Lyle's Seahawks, and pretty indifferent coming out of it, but really excited. You guys should check out my new podcast. It's the Think Blue podcast. I think is Thinking Blue, Blake. What's
Thinking
my podcast
Blue,
called?
Close enough.
Thinking Blue.
Thinking Blue.
True Blue LA. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh Schaefer TBLA. So make sure you guys check that out.
There you go.
Yep.
No new podcast, but like I always say, I love the NFL draft. It's one of my favorite times of the year, and I walked away being pretty happy with it. There was some drama. There were some trades. There were some picks you wouldn't expect. Just about everything you could ask for, and I'm happy to break it all down.
All right, guys, so we got a lot to break to tonight. We're going to have some guests coming on shortly to talk about their certain team in regards to who they cover. We got some guys who were with SB Nation. They covered the 49ers, the Rams. So we got some fun guests coming on. We're going to be breaking down as much as the NFL draft as we potentially can. Looks like Brady's gone incognito, so who knows when exactly he's going to come back. So, guys, let's just kick things off with the team that we thought had the best draft. So 2 weeks ago, we were doing a live stream during the draft. I believe we stopped after pick 19. Brady, I think, stopped after pick 14 or 15. So a little more than half the draft. So a lot of people didn't get to see, the full reaction to every pick. They also just maybe weren't tuning in, or it's been 2 weeks. I kind of forgot what happened on draft night, maybe because I was pounding too many shots down. But also, if you guys are watching in the live chat right now, you guys can hit us up in the live chat. Let us know who you thought had the best draft. If there's any NFL draft related questions you guys have, you guys can donate to the super chat. It'll come up on the screen in a nice, beautiful color. We'll answer your question live on the show. And later in the show, we're going to be doing more of an NFL draft, kind of 2 week later edition Q&A. So again, any questions, takeaways, anything you have from the draft, save those questions. Or again, you guys can hit us up in the super chat. You guys can donate, and we'll get your question on before we get to the Q&A and talk about that. But guys, we'll go around the room. Pretty much, again, this is in regards to which team, in your opinion, had the best draft. Now, this can be for who you thought overall had the best picks. If they had 6, 7 good picks you liked, it could be just because of one player you thought they had the best draft. But Josh, we'll kick it off with you with who you thought officially won the draft, even though we're not going to know who won the draft until 5-10 years down the road.
So my team with the best draft this year, for me, is an easy choice, and it's the New York Jets. When you have 2 picks in the first 14 selections of the draft, and you need 2 positions filled, and it's quarterback and offensive lineman, and there is choices for you to take, I think it's hard to mess this up. They take Zach Wilson at number 2. There's their future franchise quarterback. Again, we've talked about this 100 times on the show. I like Justin Fields better than Zach Wilson. They saw Zach Wilson as the clear number 2 quarterback in this draft. They got a chance to take him, and they took him. And we're going to see if that pans out for them. I hope it does, because they've been looking for that future franchise quarterback for a couple years now. Things didn't turn out with Sam Darnold. We all know how I feel about that, how other people on the show feel about that, so we'll stay away from that. But aside from just getting Zach Wilson at number 2, they then turn around and then they fill their other most important need, which is an offensive lineman. And they take Elijah Vera Tucker from USC at 14, and back-to-back picks for the Jets, I think, are absolute slam dunks for them. Where they got those 2 players, who they wanted to take, and the positions that they filled, I think they did a great job of that. And then the one thing that I've always defended Sam Darnold with his time in New York was needs protection, needs help around him. So what did they do for Zach Wilson? Not only did they get him protection with Elijah Vera Tucker, they go out and get wide receiver Elijah Moore from Ole Miss. They get Michael Carter, the running back from North Carolina, one of the 2 running backs from North Carolina. So already you've got 3 offensive, you've got kind of a lifeline, some protection with Elijah Vera Tucker, and then you go out and get 2 more offensive skill players with Elijah Moore and Michael Carter to add to that offense, to give him a little bit more help around him. I think that's a slam dunk first 4 rounds right there. Their first 4 picks were in the first 4 rounds. Nobody in the third. And then they kind of just played filler after that. They grabbed 3 cornerbacks. One of them was a second Michael Carter. So you get 2 Michael Carters in the same draft. That's another slam dunk pick. But they really kind of, after those first 4 picks that they really needed to fill, it was kind of depth everywhere else for me. 3 cornerbacks, 2 linebackers, a defensive tackle. The Jets, for me, checked all of the boxes for everything that they needed, and it all comes down to those first 4 picks for me, which they knocked out of the park.
I'll be interested to see what they do with those Jets jerseys with the 2 Michael Carters, because sometimes when you have 2 last names of the same guy, you'll go like C Carter and then M Carter, but there's 2 M Carters and then there's not M.I. Carter and like M.A. Carter. So I don't know how those
the one thing that might be able to distinguish it is the cornerback is Michael Carter II. So if you can put Carter and then 2, then I think you're okay.
Yeah,
true.
I didn't even think about that until Lyle brought it up. Where my whole thing was, they realized they drafted the wrong Michael Carter. Whatever, I forget which round was the first one. They said, wait, no, we got the wrong Michael Carter. Let's get our other Michael Carter here.
Take the other one.
Yeah. I thought the Jets had a great draft. I think Joe Douglas is a really good GM. He's only had a little bit of time, but I think in what was his second real draft, he put together a really good class. The team that I went with for team with the best draft, I stuck in the AFC East too, and I said the Miami Dolphins. I think everything they did with their draft not only got Tua a lot of help, but they fit a lot of needs too. Like they addressed a lot of needs that they very clearly had, and they hit on a lot of guys. Jalen Waddle was the best receiver on the board when they took him at 6, and not only was he the best guy on the board, but our friend that's a huge Dolphins fan kept saying throughout the process of the draft, he's the best fit for this team. So they get a huge fit in Jalen Waddle, who is that Tyreek Hill type of player. At least Cole, when we had him on last week or 2 weeks ago, kind of said the same thing. So they get Waddle at 6, and then they get Jalen Phillips at 18, who a lot of people, including Chris Collinsworth, said this is the best defensive player in the draft. And if you're getting the best defensive player in the draft at 18, that's a steal. Those are their first 2-round picks. And then, honestly, the sneaky pick that I liked a ton was Javon Holland in the 2nd round. It was so easy to forget. This guy was hands down the best safety in this class coming into the year. And then he opted out. And we saw with a lot of these guys that opted out, it hurt their stock a little bit. But clearly, Brian Flores liked him. Clearly, they stayed on him all year. And they got him in the 2nd round at really good value. So between those 3 guys, between getting Liam Eichenberg to address the other tackle spot, I thought they had a great draft, especially since they had so many picks in the first 2 days.
Yeah. And the fact that, again, I've been saying this all along, where the Dolphins, even if they were sitting there at 3 originally, like they were like a month ago, they probably would have gone with Waddle anyway, since it seems like he was their guy. So not only did they load up on picks, they get the guy they would have liked anyway. And like you said, for what Brady said, overall, maybe Jamar Chase is the better, talent. But in regards to what's the better fit, I agree with Jalen Waddle fitting in better. And then a lot of people still had him as, well, not a lot of people, but there were people that had Jalen Waddle is, wide receiver 1 in this draft class. And then with Jalen Phillips, again, you can make the case he's the best defensive prospect in regards to, I guess, who's out there evaluating talent. So you get those 2 guys in the 1st round. I also like the Holland pick as well. So yeah, I agree with you. I thought the Dolphins, the last 2 to 3 years, their drafts have been pretty slam dunks, I think.
Yeah, I agree. They had a good draft last year. And again, they got 2 of some fits this year. And again, like the pick with Holland, that's potentially the best safety in this class in the 2nd round. So, yeah.
All right, Brady, who do you have as the team having the best draft in your opinion?
I don't know if they had the best draft, because I thought one of the teams that is or will be mentioned had the best draft, but I really liked what the Ravens did. they got a guy like Rashad Bateman. You know, they needed more exterior wide receiver talent, and he was one of the bigger receivers in this draft class. Is able to go up and play the outside receiver position really well. Gets help for Lamar. They had 2 late first round picks, and then went away from Penn State as well. So they got a solid outside linebacker. They got a great receiver. But one of the big things for me is they doubled up on receiver, and they got Tylan Wallace in like the 4th round, I think it was. Yeah, they got Tylan Wallace in the 4th round. So a guy who was, maybe at one point considered a first-day pick, obviously didn't have the elite season everyone.
I think he was a Biletnikoff finalist 2 years ago, if I remember. Or maybe I think he actually won the Biletnikoff 2 years ago.
Sure he won.
So he won the Biletnikoff 2 years ago, and you get him in the 4th round.
So one of the guys who was considered to be one of the top receivers in all of college football, you snag him in the 4th round. And then also a guy like Sean Wade, who you get in the 5th round, who was, I feel like any DB from Ohio State's going to play decently in the NFL. That's what they do. But I think that was a great pick there. Surprised he fell that far as well. So I think the Ravens had a pretty solid draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's something that we talked about.
The one thing they didn't touch on was they could have drafted more offensive linemen. They only drafted one who was a guard, but just more help for Lamar should have been a bigger priority. But you get the weapon help instead of the front line.
Yeah, when you take 2 wide receivers in that draft, so you get Rashad Bateman with your first pick at 27, and then you turn around and you get Tylan Wallace as late as they did. I think, especially if Tylan Wallace is not that first wide receiver that you're taking off the board in this draft, I think that's an even better pick if you can get him as your second talented wide receiver that you're grabbing. And then you take kind of the same thing with Sean Wade. We mentioned this before. Sean Wade was a guy whose draft stock seemed to be a lot higher before he got absolutely torched in the playoff this year. So he had a lot better season, and it kind of got I think it got overshadowed by the playoff. And then again, he kind of mouthed off a little bit and then got embarrassed. And I think that kind of put him in the spotlight for a negative reason. But the dude had a really good season. And kind of like the wide receiver thing with Tylan Wallace, Sean Wade was the second defensive back that they took off the board too. So I kind of like what they did too. And again, like what Brady said, maybe not my team that I'm going to highlight as having the best draft, but I think kind of under the radar had a really good one.
Yeah, the Ravens have crushed drafts in the last couple of years. Like, I think Eric DeCosta, you can argue at this point, might be the best GM in football for how well he's drafted and developed guys over the last couple of years. So, yeah, I would expect nothing less than for them to have another really good draft class. And again, especially a guy like Wade that late, who some thought would be a top 10 pick entering the year. Yeah, why not take a flyer on him in the 5th round?
Yeah.
Another team I wanted to mention just very quickly. It's not the team as a whole. It's just 2 of their picks, and that's the Niners. And it's not going to be the big one everyone thinks it is. It's, their 3rd round pick. They get Trey Sermon, a great running back in the 3rd round. But also, it was their 5th round pick, 180th overall. And Josh, obviously, Talanoa Hufanga, getting him what we consider to be one of the best secondary players and one of the most versatile secondary players in the draft, fall into the 5th round. That's another steal as well.
He's a Pac-12 player of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Niners, Niners as always. I mean, they had to go. We're actually going to be talking about the Niners, their draft in about 10 or 15 minutes. Before we have our first couple of guests hop on and talk about some teams and talk about a division, mine, I thought this one, I think you guys might can agree as well, where all it took was one player for them to win the draft, and that was the Chicago Bears. No one had the Bears in I didn't see any mocks that had the Bears coming up and getting Justin Fields. He slid there to number 11. The Bears, they traded up and got him. The Bears, the last few years, they've had one of the best defenses in all the NFL. I mean, their defense has literally led them to the playoffs behind awful quarterback play. They have Allen Robinson, who is a top 8, top 6 wide receiver in the NFL. David Montgomery took the next step last year, so he's, I think, solidifying himself as a really good running back. So you got a really good defense. You have an already above average, probably maybe with a good quarterback, top 10 offense. And now you got a guy like Justin Fields, where I get they have Andy Dalton. He's not going to be their starting quarterback the entire year. Where the Bears defense is good enough to win them a couple of games, where you can have Andy Dalton for the first month of the season and he can win you a couple of games, and then bring on Justin Fields. And adding on to the Justin Fields pick, I love the Tevin Jenkins pick, the offensive lineman from Oklahoma State. I thought this was a guy that could have been a first-round pick, and I think he slid all the way to, he went to pick
39.
Yeah. So you get a potential first-round talent to protect Justin Fields. So the Justin Fields, that did it for me. But again, adding a guy in Tevin Jenkins, who I really liked. And then Khalil Herbert, running back from Virginia Tech. I believe they got him in the 6th round. This was a guy I thought he was going to go maybe like round 3 or 4. You get some depth behind David Montgomery. I think he's a really good piece. So overall, the Chicago Bears, like I said, it took one player for them to win the draft, but some other really nice pieces that I kind of think went under the radar a bit.
I think we all had Tevin Jenkins in the first round in our mocks too.
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Before we
and
move
got him
on
in the
really
second
quickly,
round.
hey, major props, 3 years in a row, an AFC wide receiver getting drafted.
Yes.
Love to see it.
Darby.
All right, guys. So we're going to bring in some guests right now. The first one, let me introduce him, Bill Williamson, my man. He covers the Raiders for SB Nation. Sorry, Bill, your screen's a little tiny because there's so many of us, so we all can't see your beautiful face in HD.
And my head's a little big, so it's a bad combo.
All right, so we got Bill Williamson here, covers the Raiders for SB Nation, and we're adding another, my man Michael Peterson. He covers the Chargers for SB Nation. So, guys, we're going to have a little AFC West breakdown. So, Bill, we're going to throw it to you since you beat Michael by about 30 seconds to join in on the fun. What are just quick takeaways and thoughts from the Raiders' controversial 2021 draft? Because every draft under John Gruden is always the most questionable out of every team in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Mike Mayock that night, Thursday night, after they took Alex Leatherwood, the right tackle from Alabama at number 17, to the surprise of everybody, said, hey, this is going to be a controversial pick. His guy, Daniel Jeremiah, who took over for him at the NFL Networks, as soon as the pick was taken, he said, this is the number 62nd guy on my board. Now, that doesn't mean that anything, but that's a pretty big difference between 17 and 62, and it continued a trend of the last 3 years. Clinton Farrell, the defensive end from Clemson, taken number 4. A lot of people thought he'd be going in the mid-20s. Damon Arnett, number 19, the cornerback from Ohio State, people thought he'd go to 35 to 40. So whether they're true reaches or not, we don't know if these guys are going to be any good. Now, Farrell hasn't done much. Arnett hasn't done much, so that has led credence to that argument. But the bottom line is they could have gotten Leatherwood later. They could have traded down. And if you can't get a trade down, take somebody else. It just seemed like a reach. Again, he might be a guy who plays for 8 to 10 years and starts from day one, but still a little curious.
Yeah, the funny part is even before the draft, I know you and I were kind of going back and forth saying, oh, gee, I wonder what player ranked at number 90 the Raiders are going to take in the first round. It wasn't 90. They went, like you said, with a guy number 60. Now, going over to the Chargers, Michael didn't have to have that problem of having a guy that is getting absolutely reached for. The Chargers got his absolute dream scenario pick, Rashawn Slater. So, Michael, completely different than what the Raiders did, pretty much reaching. They're getting a guy that could have gone potentially in the top 10. What are your thoughts on the Chargers getting him in the first round, just overall their draft as a whole?
Yeah, so I mean, they couldn't have nailed, especially their first and second pick, any better than they actually did in terms of a perfect fit between best player available and just overall team need, right? They need a left tackle. I would have put that at priority number 1. They got Rashawn Slater. After getting tackle in the first, I would have said a really good or the best available man corner that you can find, because that's what Brandon Staley covets in corners, is the ability to play man coverage. That's number 1 priority. And they land Asante Samuel Jr. I mean, you just couldn't have written those 2 picks any better. Maybe some people would have liked Penny Sewell to fall, to 13, or at least fall to a place where they could have traded up. But I mean, some people had Slater better or higher, on their boards than Sewell. So you really can't argue with that whatsoever. The rest of the draft, though, and I'll put it this way: the top 2 picks were so good and so perfect that a lot of Chargers fans didn't care about the rest of the draft. But I think they say that thinking that maybe they would still continue the trend of like nailing best player available, nailing player need and stuff like that. They did surprise a little bit with Josh Palmer and Trey McKitty in the 3rd round. So if you were to ask me, besides tackle and corner, what their biggest needs were, I was going to say edge rusher. Behind Bosa and behind now starter, or at least penciled in for now, Uchenna Nwosu, they've got Kyler Fackrell, who I think is an underrated signing in free agency. But behind those 3 guys, there's no depth whatsoever. And I mean, the defense is changing. Right, it was this 4-3 under Gus Bradley, where you had your base end in Joey Bosa, and then you had the Leo on the other side, which is usually kind of a 3-4 outside linebacker hybrid that can rush the passer as well, play the run well. And that was Melvin Ingram, but he's gone now. But they still kind of have space at that pseudo Leo position. Behind Bosa, there's nobody. There's no one who's 6'5", 275, 280 pounds. I would have gone edge. But instead they get a wide receiver who actually, despite the underwhelming production, had some of the worst quarterbacking throwing to him in 2020. I think overall the team had 2,000 total passing yards. And I think Palmer had 500 of those 2,000 yards. So if you look at the percentage, his share of what they were throwing, that's still good. And he played his best ball against Georgia. He played his best ball against Alabama. I think he had 3 touchdowns across those 2 games. I think he's going to be just fine. And I think this kind of signals a shift that Mike Williams may not be here next season. And then Trey McKitty. This is probably the biggest reach, and I think it made plenty of lists for biggest reaches of the draft. This was a guy you could probably have had on day 3, late day 3, round 6 or 7. And they decided to go for him. And I mean, they lost Hunter Henry, but Trey McKitty isn't a Hunter Henry replacement. It doesn't seem like he's a well-rounded tight end at this point that you could plug in and he'll fill that type of production. No, they said that he was the last pro-ready blocker left on the board, and they felt like one thing that their offense was missing was a really good blocker at tight end. You see the way that guys like George Kittle kind of changed the game for San Francisco. I mean, he's also a hell of a receiver as well, but you need that blocking to shore up the entire offensive line, right? It's not just your 5 offensive linemen. You do need a good tight end. Then you're looking at day 3, Chris Rumph, slippery edge rusher, but the guy's like 235, 240 pounds. I mean, again, is that smaller edge rusher that I thought they needed, a bigger guy who can play the run and rush the passer just as well. And then in round 5, I am totally blanking right now. I mean, other guys like Larry Roundtree, 6th round running back, 7th rounder, and Mark Webb, the safety from Georgia, who is more of almost like a box safety than he is like a free safety, which is what they needed. Larry Roundtree didn't really need a running back, stuff like that. They just picked some questionable guys. Actually, 5th rounder Brendan Hymas, excuse me, I cannot believe I'm forgetting the offensive lineman here, as much of a fan of that position as I am. Swing tackle potential. A guy that can maybe transition inside as well, 6'4", I think 305 pounds, started 41 games for Nebraska, which was a program record there. I mean, started every day, all day, the second he got on campus. So there's some value picks later on as well, but I think those 3rd round picks are going to shake things up. But overall, you can't fault this draft whatsoever because of the way that they hit on Slater and on Asante Samuel Jr.
I have a quick question for Bill about the Raiders before we let you guys go. And you mentioned the Leatherwood pick being kind of a reach in the 1st round at 17. With the 2nd round pick at 43 with Trevon Merrick from TCU. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that one, when it seemed like he was probably slotted in to be the first safety off the board and ended up being the 3rd.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, a lot of people said, hey, if the Raiders would have took Morrig at 17 and Leatherwood at 43, nobody would be complaining, right? We'd probably complain about something, though. Morrig, it was kind of interesting because a lot of people picked him at 25 to Jacksonville. And then when he gets to about 30, because sometimes safeties can stay on the board longer. We've seen it. I mean, the first one didn't go off until 36, Holland to Miami. So around 30, you're wondering what's going on here. And then we get into day 2 and nobody trades up to get him. And then Holland goes, and then Richie Grant goes before him. Yeah. A lot of people thought that he was going to be a really nice consolation price to losing Morrig to getting Grant at 48. So as soon as that pick happened, the Raiders got on the phone because they were screwed if somebody takes him. And Dallas is probably going to take him at 44. So John Lynch, who played for John Gruden, of course, in Tampa Bay, really kind of threw him a life preserver and made that trade at 40 from 48 to 43. Raiders didn't give up. They gave up 121 in the 4th to do it. And I really think that pick saved the Raiders draft.
Yeah, I know that, in my opinion, was the Raiders' best pick, and especially the value they got at hit. So before we let Bill and Michael go, I'm just going to have one parting question for you guys. Obviously, it's not ideal being in the same division as one Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'll just throw it to you two before we head out. What percentage chance do you have, not of overthrowing the Chiefs and taking the division this year, but what percentage chance do you guys give your team of reaching the playoffs in 2021, or I guess technically 2022?
I'll let Bill go first.
Okay. This is a team that had designs of making the playoffs last year. They made moves to get up to doing it. They were 7-9 last year, 8-8, excuse me. There's 17 games. I think the percentage needs to be 40 to 50%. I don't. This team needs to make the playoffs this year. This team needs to make a real jump in year 4 of the John Gruden era, instead of saying, okay, we're getting closes and next year, no more excuses. They got to kind of do it this year.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man, because when it comes to this Chargers team, and if you guys know the well-documented history, abysmal history of the Chargers, it's tough to ever really pin down exactly how you feel the team's going to do, because they've looked really good on paper for quite a few years now in a row. And every single year, Peter Schrager or someone like that in the media says, the Chargers are the team this year. I just can't be more excited about the Chargers. They just got everything they need. And then something like 2020 happens, where they lose a historical amount of games by less than a score while being up by 14 to 16, 17 points in the fourth quarter. They do something crazy outlandish like that. Their special teams becomes the worst special teams unit in the past 20 years since the turn of the century. I mean, crazy things happen to this Chargers team. So as it stands right now, I always say that the Chargers are going to kind of be who they are until proven otherwise. And so this team, fought back end of the year on a 4-game win streak to end 7-9. But that was after, historically losing games in terrible ways. So I do think they're on the cusp, 7-9 after being, I think it was 5-11 in 2019, is improvement, but wasn't good enough. I think just like the Raiders, this is a year where they're going to have to make the playoffs and people are going to start rioting a little bit. I know Brandon Staley, it's his first season as the head coach, but so many people have tremendous trust in Brandon Staley, what he did in such a short time, especially last year, making the Rams the number 1 defense. They have high expectations. But like the Raiders, I think if any team besides the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs, it's going to be as a wild card, and they're going to have to take care of business outside of the division, because they know the AFC West is a crazy hard division. It doesn't matter if who's bad or good between the Broncos, Raiders, Chargers. They're snarky. They fight each other, and they're tough wins to get. So I think it's a coin flip, honestly, for the Chargers to make the playoffs. I think if they can stay healthy for once every 5 years, they're good. If they can't, this might just be another one of those seasons.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I mean, these teams are easily, teams that can compete. They can be over 500. And if the Broncos just want to go and screw around and get Aaron Rodgers, this division is going to be an absolute nightmare in regards to everyone playing each other. So Bill Williamson, Michael Peterson, my men, thank you guys for joining the show. I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys in our weekly Zooms sometime soon. But yeah, if you guys are Raiders fans, Chargers fans, go over, find these guys. Amazing coverage. These guys are absolute tanks. They're animals. They're putting out like 5 to 10 articles a day. So, gentlemen, we really appreciate you guys joining the show tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Take care.
All right, so again, guys, go check those guys out. Some amazing articles, especially if you guys are, into the Raiders, into the Chargers, that kind of fun stuff. So in a few minutes, we're going to be moving on now. Now, this is going to be a fun one because, as you guys know, Josh is a Rams fan. Lyle's a Seahawks fan. So we're going to be having Kenny Arthur coming on, who covers the Rams for SB Nation. We're going to be having Kyle Posey, who covers the 49ers for SB Nation, who actually interviewed Trey Lance a few days before the NFL draft. They were talking about potentially Trey Lance ending up in San Francisco, and he said pretty much, I don't have the exact quote, but it was like, yeah, I'll see you guys there. Pretty much, he kind of knew that he was going to be taken by the 49ers. So, unfortunately, we don't have a Cardinals fan. Well, I mean, unless we want to get a Cardinals fan on in the next 3 minutes to make this a true roundtable. But it's going to be a good NFC West talk show. So, Josh, I guess because I know later in the show we're actually going to be talking about how our teams did in the draft. You and Lyle can actually pretty much, I guess, for the next segment when we're talking with these guys, you guys can kind of explain your thoughts on the draft. But this one's going to be a lot of fun because, in my opinion, I think that the NFC West is going to be the best division next season in the NFL. We're going to add our 2 guys on right now. So as I mentioned, we got Kyle, who covers the 49ers for SB Nation, and we got Kenny, who covers the Rams for SB Nation as well. It's a full SB Nation party. You guys just missed Bill and Michael just a minute earlier. So guys, how you guys doing? Thanks for hopping on the show for a few minutes to talk about the draft.
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me. I love the draft, so I can't wait to hear what you guys have been talking about.
Love it, man. Yeah, this should be fun. Let's do it.
All right, so no offense, Kenny, to the Rams, but the Rams just weren't as exciting on night one as the 49ers. So, Kyle, we're going to throw it to you. I talked about your interview with Trey Lance leading up to the draft and how we were all kind of projecting what was going to happen. So I guess first and foremost for you, how what percentage did you think they were going to go with Trey Lance? Because it seemed like no one in the world knew except for two people what direction they were going to go. But based on the interview you had with him, he kind of, again, seemed like hinted that he thought he was going to go to San Francisco. So I guess how surprised were you with the pick? And again, with all the quarterbacks available, I mean, we knew that it was going to come down to either Trey Lance, Mac Jones, not really Justin Fields. And do you think that overall it was the smart pick for the 49ers to make?
So early on, I thought it was Trey Lance. Like I remember telling somebody it would be like 60% Trey Lance and then the rest Fields and maybe like 5% Mac Jones. We were never really buying it was Mac Jones at Niners Nation just because we have common sense or try to at least operate like we have common sense. But I really thought as the process went along that it was Justin Fields. And it was probably a lot of my personal bias creeping in there just because I thought he was a better player, and I still do. But Trey Lance is like a heck of a just consolation prize. I do think he's a really good quarterback, and I think that he fits with what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. And I just think it'll probably be more entertaining just to see him evolve as a player, knowing that he is this quote unquote moldable ball of clay that can really turn into any type of quarterback.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see because Trey Lance comes into a unique situation where they don't need him to be the starter right away. We've all talked about this in multiple shows that we don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is the right guy. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. So definitely, even the night of the draft, I was still leaning towards Mac Jones just because I felt like for some reason they were going to go that way. But I'm glad they went with Trey Lance. So also great job in the interview. That was absolutely fantastic. So we'll go back to you in a minute. But Kenny, I know the Rams, as our buddy Josh here, who's a huge Rams fan, wasn't as excited for night one of the draft because the Rams didn't have a first rounder. So not having a first rounder overall, how do you think the Rams came out from the 2021 NFL draft?
Yeah, I think for Josh and anyone else out there that's a Rams fan, I mean, I guess I've always kind of been more of the bright side type of guy. And so I have to fight against that to try and I want to empathize with that disdain for training, not having first round picks, because I also love first round picks. But Jalen Ramsey's on the Rams. So I don't know what else to say I don't know. Every year these grades come out and these draft capital comes out and who's getting the best position of the draft. I don't know. I think teams that use their first round picks to acquire established veterans that help them win games needs to be accounted for when we're talking about the draft. Now, I understand for a draft show, we're talking about the players that came out of that class, and that's completely fair. I think teams like the Rams and the Seahawks and sort of the 49ers said, I don't know if I completely trust this draft class. And they all traded their first round picks and multiple first round picks to kind of avoid having to deal with the draft. I mean, the 49ers just traded up so that they at least had their choice. I don't know. I think they could have stayed at 12 and maybe still gotten Trey Lance, but that's just me. Maybe at the very least, I think they might've been able to trade up to 6, give up 1 first round pick to get Trey Lance. But I do think that the Rams came out with 9 players. They entered with 6 picks, come out with 9 players. You're not going to be picking in the top 50 because you did trade for Jalen Ramsey. I think they did. I think Lestine did pretty well. I know people wanted offensive line help, but overall, I think that this is the approach of trying to get the best possible players.
Right. And it's just something we've grown accustomed to on a year-to-year basis because I think we talked about this in weeks past with Josh about how the Rams just never have a first-round pick. It's kind of just like what you expect in a draft, so how they build. So, guys, before we let you go, as I mentioned, Josh is a Rams fan. Lyle over here, he's a Seahawks fan. So we got literally, aside from a Cardinals fan on here, a full NFC West crew. So I'm not going to ask you guys for your 1 through 4 predictions, but Kyle and Kenny, who do you think is going to come out in first place in the division, and who do you got in second place in the division for the upcoming season? Because I'm very interested to hear. And again, we can throw it to Josh and Lyle for this one too, because I want to hear their thoughts as well. But Kyle, we'll throw it to you first and second place this upcoming season.
I still think it's the Rams just because they have a superior roster, as Kenny just mentioned. Like Jalen Ramsey still plays for the Rams. That's not going to change anytime soon. They still have Aaron Donald. They still have a ton of good players, and they upgraded at quarterback. So as much as we're talking about the 49ers quarterback, there's probably a greater difference going from the ghost of Jared Goff to Matt Stafford. So that'll be quite an upgrade. So I'll say first place, the Rams. And I do think it's all just going to be about health with everybody else. So I'll say 49ers finish second just because I feel like they're due for a quote unquote healthy-ish season.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I do believe, for me, I thought about it this morning, and here's the way I see it. No, if it's fun, it's good that there's no Cardinals here, I guess, because there's nothing wrong with the Cardinals. I mean, it's crazy when your last place team is maybe the 15th best team in the NFL. That's crazy. But here's my thing: Seahawks have the best offense. 49ers have the best defense, and the Rams have the best combination of both. So I think that for me, it's really hard. I have the Rams and the Seahawks right now pretty much just number one, each of them. I think they're very close. I'm giving a hefty bonus to the stability of Russell Wilson and the ability for Pete Carroll, I think, to improve the defense next season. So for me, I think I also think Stafford was the biggest move of the whole year, and it won't be topped, and nobody talks about it because it was in January. But I think that those two moves and the 49ers bringing back everybody, it's going to be 3 playoff teams, maybe 4. But yeah, I would go Seahawks, Rams, 49ers, maybe in that order.
Josh, Lyle, I'll let you guys close the 4 with your top 2 predictions as of right now.
I think you guys both make really good points. I've kind of been leaning toward the Rams, putting them in first. We talked about on the show a while back, like which of these rookie quarterbacks has the best chance to make the playoffs. And I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a great player, but I think Lyle and I both agreed 100% the rookie with the best chance to make the playoffs is whoever the 49ers take. Because I think that whoever that player is going to have the best roster around him. And yeah, if the 49ers have a healthy-ish season, I think they're number 1 or number 2 in the division. I like what Kenny said about the Seahawks offense. I'm sure Lyle does too. And look, I mean, like the Cardinals, I think they've had a pretty good offseason, but they thought they were a playoff team last year. So I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it with the Cardinals. But right now, I think it's probably the Rams or the Niners for me.
I mean, this division is lethal. I mean, it's the best one in football. The fact that any team has to play in this division is so rough. I think the Cardinals are in 4. I mean, I think the Cardinals are going to finish 4th, and I think the other 3 teams are all going to be in a fight for the top. Look, the Seahawks won the division at 12 games last year and didn't lose any pieces. I'll just remind people that who are putting them at 3rd. But I think, I mean, honestly, I don't have a division winner for you right now because those 3 teams, especially with the Niners getting Lance, are all so close. It's so close. Again, this is why this division's brutal, because I think those 3 teams could all easily win 13 games. Now, all 3 of them will not all 3 teams will win 13 games, but any of those 3 teams could easily win 13 to 14 games with the 17-game season.
Right. I think deep down, Lyle just can't admit that he's got the Seahawks at 3, and he's got a combo of Rams and 49ers at 1, too. So it's all good, Big L. So Kyle, Kenny, we really appreciate the time. We appreciate you guys hopping on. Again, these guys do fantastic coverage over at SB Nation. Whole lot of fun with these guys. So keep up the killer content, guys. And like I told the 2 before us, I'm sure I'll be seeing you guys in either a Zoom call soon or somewhere in the Slack chat over the coming weeks.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Go Braves.
Go Braves. No, and that's a perfect fitting way to get Kyle out here. Hey, Kyle, it's okay. We all blow 3-1 leads. We all blow 3-1 leads to the Dodgers. It happens to the best of us.
I'm blocking you on Slack right now.
And that's all good. All right, guys. So again, that was a whole lot of fun. Some great.
If you want me to pick the Seahawks to win the division, I'll pick them to win the division. They just won it last year and lost nobody. Like, I don't think they're going to finish in 3rd, personally.
All right. So, again, that wraps up our guests for the night. Again, some really good guys that know their stuff with SB Nation, some really cool stuff. Again, Kyle interviewed Trey Lance a few days before with an interview that ended up blowing up. So, all right, guys, let's get back to some more NFL draft content. So, all of you guys that are still tuning in right now, again, this is pretty much a Q&A throughout the entire show. There's not going to be a specified Q&A at the end. So, if you have any NFL draft-related questions, hit us up in the live chat right now. We want to get to as many of them as possible. They could be NFL draft questions, takeaways, hot takes, anything in regards to that. You guys can donate to the super chat. We'll read your question right away and get to that. So again, it's a Q&A pretty much throughout the show, so no need to wait till the absolute end. But yeah, guys, there's a chance the Cardinals literally can finish 500 and they come in last. Well, I guess they can't finish 500 anymore because it's a 17-game season, but they can finish 1 game under 500 and be in absolutely last place in their division. So, guys, let's move on to more NFL draft content. Do you guys want to talk about how we thought our teams did overall?
Yeah.
All right. Brady, since unfortunately we couldn't get to any Colts talk in that take, why don't we kick it off to you? Let us hear your thoughts on how you think the Colts did. Come on. I don't know what to make of that. Is he just think they were that bad, or he just doesn't care how they did? Well, Brady, we'd love to hear your thoughts regardless on how you think they did.
All right, I'll crack. No, I was saying we got to go in the normal order, Blake. That's what we do. You can't do this to us.
I got to throw you off. I got to make sure you guys stay on your A game.
Yeah, right. A game. So, in my opinion, honestly, I thought the Colts at the time of the draft missed on one thing, and that was an offensive lineman, specifically a left tackle. Since then, I have changed my mind with the signing of Pro Bowl All-Pro Eric Fisher. No big deal. Him next to Quentin Nelson's a pretty good pairing. Next to Ryan Kelly, next to, the whole offensive line. The Colts offensive line's back. I thought the Kwity Paye pick at 21 for the Colts was rated as across, multiple draft sites and whatever, and personally, one of the best picks in the first round. I'm not saying it because I am a Colts fan. I'm just saying I think it's a great fit to pair him on the same line with a guy like one of the top 3 interior defensive linemen in the NFL, DeForest Buckner, a top, let's call him 3 to 5 linebacker in the NFL, with Darius Leonard, a great secondary, with Kenny Moore, with Xavier Rhodes, getting guys returning in the secondary, and almost all returners. The only main piece they lost on the defense was Anthony Walker to the Browns. So I think Kwity Paye, I had the Colts taking Azeez Ojulari, same position. He ended up falling to, I think, the 2nd or 3rd round, but getting a guy like Kwity Paye in the 1st round at 21, who I had slated actually higher than that, was, in my opinion, a great pick. After that, obviously, I think it sort of balanced out. They got some smaller name guys. They got a receiver or two. I need to pull up the exact draft recap for them because I was working all weekend, so I didn't get to watch anything past the 1st round. But I did like what they did. The Colts also just signed a defensive end or defensive lineman from the Cowboys today. So I think defensively is where they were trying to focus on the draft when it should have, at least gone after. I thought they could have used a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a wide receiver.
Well, here's a quick one for you because we got a super chat that comes in from Trevor Kenjosian. How do you feel about Eric Fisher not being able to practice till October? So the Colts, I believe, just signed Eric Fisher today to a 1-year deal, but I think he's ACL surgery, right? He tore his ACL.
It's on a 1-year, $9.5 million contract that they signed yesterday. I don't remember which one of you guys said someone was one of the best GMs. Lyle said, I think the Rangers GM.
Yeah, DaCosta. He's really good.
I would agree with that, but I honestly think what we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years with what Chris Ballard has done with the Colts in drafting a guy like Darius Leonard, and drafting a guy like Quentin Nelson, and drafting Jonathan Taylor, and drafting X, Y, and Z, and making trades and getting the trade for DeForest Buckner. I think Ballard's one of the top GMs in the NFL as well. So he obviously did his due diligence. I think they're confident with what his rehab will be. I think it's more so looking towards September, end of September to October. The one pick I didn't mention, which I loved, is the Colts 6th round pick. You took Sam Ehlinger. And honestly, I actually like him in that spot to the Colts. It's similar what they did last year when they took Jacob Eason from Washington. They get a guy like Sam Ehlinger. So now your quarterback room are a first-year player, a second-year player. A first-year player, however you want to say that, a rookie, a second-year player, and now Carson Wentz, who is his first year on the team. So the most experienced quarterback on the Colts in the quarterback room is Jacob Eason.
You can turn Sam Ehlinger into your guys' Taysom Hill version. I'm sure he'd love that.
Tim Tebow not playing a game in 3,000 days.
Overall, Colts, the Kwity Paye pick was fantastic because I think a lot of us had him in like our top 20 when we did our own mock draft. So Colts, well done. Lyle, we'll throw it to you. We'll just go in a completely random order. What are your thoughts on how the Seahawks came out of their draft? Again, with no 1st round pick, something that we've also become accustomed to on a year-to-year basis.
Kick your feet up, grab some popcorn. It's going to be a long ride to dive into 3 whole picks that they made. But to be honest, I mean, for a team that had 3 picks, I thought they did really well. I mean, I'll just go back to front here from 6th round to 2nd round because, I mean, the one I'll talk about the most is the 2nd round pick. Stone Forsythe, who they got in the 6th round, everybody had a 2nd or 3rd round grade on. People didn't really know why he fell. They thought that was a steal. Trey Brown from Oklahoma, he's a corner. I mean, look, I don't love Big 12 defensive guys usually, but day 3 and on, it's usually just so up in the air that you might as well just take. I mean, if you believe he's your guy, take a chance. When it's day 3 and past, it's fine. But the one that really is probably going to make the most impact is Dwayne Eskridge, who they took in the 2nd round. I hate when I watch some of these draft analysts give their recaps because sometimes it feels like they don't watch. They're talking about the Seahawks and they'll give them a downgrade because they'll be like, well, why in the world are they drafting a receiver? Like, they don't need a receiver. It's like, well, are we watching the same games? Like, you can't have 2 pass catchers on a team. If DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are covered, had they not drafted Eskridge, there was going to be just about nobody to throw the ball to. So for a guy that averaged 23 yards a catch at Western Michigan and absolutely lights up the middle of the field, an area of the field that the Seahawks just could not utilize to save their lives last year, like, this is the exact type of slot receiver, yards after catch, speedy type guy that they needed. I mean, DK and Tyler are great, but you need somebody with that quick burst who can utilize the middle of the field. So yeah, I think that was so huge to add to their offense. And that's why I believe that the Seahawks are still going to be really good this year, is because, again, they won 12 games. They won the division last year. And the best thing they could have done all offseason was bring in this new OC from the Rams off McVay's tree, because it's Shane Waldron's his name, because he's a new style McVay Shanahan type play caller. And that's what the Seahawks have needed forever with Russell Wilson in this offense. And then you add a guy like Eskridge in there, you add Gerald Everett in there. That's 3 receivers who all run 4 threes, and then an athletic tight end like Everett and an up-style play caller. So for a team that had 3 picks, I thought they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I wanted to add something on Dwayne Eskridge because I actually was hoping the Saints would get a lot of wide receivers, but I don't know if you guys follow this guy on Instagram. His handle's National Mock Drafts, and he's just like an independent guy that knows a lot about the NFL draft. And he actually, I remember like months prior to the draft, had Dwayne Eskridge as his number 17 overall prospect in the draft. So he was a receiver he really liked. And then every year he does like a diamond in the rough player. Pretty much he takes someone that's not projected to be like a 1st round pick. And he says, I think this guy's going to have the most successful career. Well, looking back at some of the guys he's called, he pretty much picked David Johnson as his breakout candidate years ago. He picked Kareem Hunt, picked Rashad Penny. So unfortunately we haven't gotten to see that yet, but the talent's definitely there. Eric McCoy, Amik Robinson. So this is a guy where he's pretty good at spotting talent, especially when these guys are like diamonds in the rough. And like I said, Dwayne Eskridge, he was his pick this year to be the diamond in the rough. So I was upset when he went to the Seahawks, because I agree. If you guys just watch I'm sure Lyle went, he watched his highlights on YouTube. This guy is, I don't care that he went to Western Michigan. Obviously, it made a deal because Corey Davis was the number 5 overall pick. I think this guy, in regards to not like the main 3 or 5 that came in the 1st round or the early 2nd, I think this guy has a chance to be the biggest wide receiver steal in the entire NFL draft. I absolutely love him.
Yeah.
All right, so Big J, let's get to your thoughts on how the Los Angeles Rams ended their draft.
Don't call me Big J.
It's Big JS.
Big J is insulting.
Let's bring him on. I'm going to bring him on.
Yeah, we should. That should have been our Cardinals, man.
Gosh.
Like I mentioned earlier, I was pretty indifferent going into this draft. And like Kenny from SB Nation, the Rams, like he said, like, yeah, I mean, the reason the Rams didn't have a 1st round pick in this draft is because Jalen Ramsey's on the Rams. So I'll take it, not complaining, obviously. Yeah, but this was the first year in a little while that I've gone
Jamal Adams. Like, I'm sure they'll trade Jamal Adams for whoever they get in the 1st round. So,
they literally said that in their press conference. Like, our 1st round pick was Jamal Adams.
Yeah. So
when Jacksonville was on the clock this year, the Rams posted the LA Rams select Jalen Ramsey tweet, and they posted like a graphic. So look, I was pretty indifferent going into the draft. Like Kenny said, I wanted some offensive line help. I wanted some offensive line help last year. I wanted offensive line help the year before. And the Rams, they don't. Les Snead, I think, does a really good job with his late round picks. So I'm not going to hold any of these late round picks against him. taking Tutu Atwell with your first pick of the draft, which was in the second round, number 57 overall. I don't get it personally. I understand what the game plan is. Personally, I would have wanted a linebacker there. When they got to pick 103 and Dylan Moses was still there, I was screaming at my TV, take Dylan Moses, and they didn't. And then like nobody took him until late, so I'm fine with it. Ultimately, the Rams went and you can check every little box for what they needed in the draft. They didn't get any offensive line help, but they got everything that they felt like they really needed. They wanted a wide receiver, which was not my top choice, but they took Tutu Atwell with their first pick. Fine, you got your wide receiver. You needed a linebacker. You got Ernest Jones from South Carolina in the third round. I think that's a fantastic pick. I wanted somebody else. They took Ernest Jones. I like that pick. And then giving a little bit of depth to the defensive line, they took Bobby Brown from Texas A&M. I like that. The thing that I don't really understand is they took 3 wide receivers in this draft before the Saints took 1. So, yeah, and so we'll get there with Blake, but they take Tutu Atwell in the second round. Yeah, they take Tutu Atwell in the second round, and the reason why is because they want to get more vertical. You know, they already have Cooper Kupp, they already have Robert Woods, but they wanted to be a little bit more vertical for a quarterback that can actually throw the ball downfield in Matthew Stafford. So I get it, and Tutu Atwell's that guy. So Tutu Atwell in this draft, they take Jacob Harris, who is basically a tight end from UCF. They drafted him as a wide receiver. He will be a tight end. Like Lyle said, Gerald Everett is gone, staying in division, but he's gone. So now you can either have Bryson Hopkins, who has not gotten any reps with the Rams, really, and he was obviously so big a couple years ago for Purdue. So there's a chance for him to crack into the lineup with Tyler Higbee, or you can take Jacob Harris, who's essentially a tight end, like he's massive. And then they take Ben Skowronek from Notre Dame in the 7th round. So I don't really get that, especially when your wide receiving core is Woods, Kupp. You've got Van Jefferson, who you drafted in the 2nd round last year. You have Tutu Atwell, who you drafted in the 2nd round this year. And you also just signed Deshaun Jackson. Like, I know Deshaun Jackson isn't in his prime or anything, but you've got those 5 guys now, and then a bunch of special teams wide receivers that I'm sure can get reps. So I don't understand why they're taking 3 wide receivers this year. That's fine. The one thing that I'll give Les Snead, and I think it's so impressive how he does this, he essentially turned 2 picks in this year's draft into 6 picks. So I think it's really impressive how he does that every year. And again, like, I'm going to trust him, considering the Rams have continued to draft good players late and develop them into legitimate NFL players. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for that. But I mean, when you have no 1st round pick and then you get 3 in the 4th round, 1 in the 5th, and 3 in the 7th, and most of those were because you took 2 picks and turned them into all these other ones because they were trading back, I like it. I'm all here for that. So get a little bit of depth. You lost a few guys in the offseason, but for the most part, the Rams are still pretty solid on both sides of the ball. So you're playing a little bit more filler, and I'm fine with it. I was indifferent going in. I'm not angry coming out. I think I'm more indifferent coming out too, and we'll just see what happens.
Mine is going to be short and sweet. The Saints enter this draft with obviously a huge need in wide receiver because looking at their depth chart, they have Michael Thomas. And then after that, you have Traquan Smith, who has not proven anything yet. You got Marquez Callaway as your number 3. And then you got Lil Jordan Humphrey, Jawan Johnson. So the Saints needed a wide receiver, and they decided to hold off until round 7 when they took Kawan Baker out of South Alabama. He will absolutely do nothing on this team moving forward. They passed up Terrace Marshall. They passed up literally all the wide receivers you guys took, and I don't know what the Saints were doing unless they plan on trading for Julio in the next few days. I don't know why the Saints waited till the 7th round to draft a wide receiver, and for the most part, I didn't really like any of the other picks. And then in the 4th round, not the 6th or 7th round, or maybe an undrafted free agent like we all expected him to be. In the 4th round, the Saints draft Ian Book from Notre Dame. And Lyle, you're a Notre Dame fan. You're someone that's watched more Ian Book than me. Can you please give me some reason to have any inch of hope or reason behind the Saints in the 4th round drafting Ian Book?
I am so glad you asked, because I've been thinking about this. The reason that pick was made is for one reason and one reason only, and that is karma. For those who don't remember, you once sat on this show and said to the people that voted for Ian Book to win the Heisman, you should flee the country. And now here we sit in May, and he is on the Saints after being picked in the 4th round.
Was I wrong telling people that voted for Ian Book as Heisman winner last year to flee the country?
Well, I wouldn't have voted for him personally, but I don't know.
No reasonable person that watched college football would have voted for him. Even top
This is
10.
the same dude that went off on the air and said like that the person who voted Clemson #1 should be banished, and then they won the national championship
Yeah, so
in
that one maybe
convincing
not as much.
fashion.
I will say though, I mean, I don't really understand the Book pick in the 4th round. I mean, I know they're trying to figure out their quarterback situation, but yeah, 4th round seems a little early for Ian Book. Yeah, I just don't get what
would he have gone undrafted?
No, I think somebody would have taken him like in the 6th or 7th, but like but he was not supposed to be a 4th round pick. I'll say that. I mean, I just don't get it with I don't get it with the Saints either. Like, to be honest, I mean, I know I'm circling this back to the Seahawks here. They kind of crushed their undrafted free agent signings, especially at the receiver position. Like, they brought in 2 receivers that, again, went undrafted, and the Saints seemed to have no interest in Cade Johnson, who was supposed to be a day 2 pick, and then Tamori and Terry, who was insane for Florida State in 2019. Like, I don't know why the Saints just decided to ignore all these receivers. Sage Surratt was another that was just sitting there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the Saints pretty much said, yeah, screw everyone who thought we were taking a wide receiver. Let's not draft one. And then let's just draft a quarterback in the 4th round. At least if you're going to draft a quarterback in the 3rd round, at least Kellen Mond and Davis Mills went, or at least maybe those guys have some sort of hope. But no, Ian Book. And I will go on, since this is live and we can always cut or edit this, for future reference. If Ian Book just starts 10 games with the Saints, I will randomly give someone $100 because that is not happening. All right, one of the guys on the shows, I will do that. So they don't draft a wide receiver. I don't know why. They draft Ian Book. I hate them. So the Saints, F as Denzel Crocker said, F, Super F, or whoever Lyle says it. So we'll transition now. Yes, Brady?
Really quickly, you talk about UDFAs. I forgot to mention, Pittman's reunited with his guy Tyler Vaughn's back in Indy. So
yes,
that's one of those guys.
Vaughn's.
T
Swag, I think his name is on Twitter.
There you go. So guys, last week we stopped doing the show a little early. We stopped, I think, after the 19th pick. So we couldn't get our man Connor on because he was going to come on to talk about the Ravens pick. It's a good thing we didn't, because I would have cursed him out when they took Rashad Bateman 1 pick before me. Now looking back at it, it doesn't matter, because obviously the Saints weren't even. I just went on a whole Saints rant. I didn't even talk about who they took in the 1st round. So that's how you know how upset I was. So we got Connor on for a couple minutes to briefly talk about how he thought the Ravens did. So Connor, overall, what are your thoughts on how the Ravens made out of the 2021 NFL draft?
I think they did reasonably well. Doubling up on wide receiver, I think was smart, but also at the same time, it kind of causes an actual causes a problem, because now they have 7-8 wide receivers total on the group. So right now it's looking like Miles Boykin, the 3rd round pick from 2019, might be on the outside looking in. I've been thinking they might try to convert him maybe to tight end, because Darren Waller was a wide receiver that we drafted, and then he moved to tight end when he was with us, and now look at what he's doing with the Raiders. Right. So, and Lamar always did best when he have the 3 tight end set during his MVP season. I liked what they did, taking Owe and then also taking Hayes in the 5th round. Doubling up on the defensive end, especially losing Judon and Ngakoue. I thought was really good. And I'm sure you saw the super chat that I sent earlier. I think a need that they didn't address that I thought was a sneaky need was safety. I know they got a Darius Washington as an undrafted free agent, but they don't have anyone on this. There's 2 starting safeties, Deshaun Elliott and Chuck Clark, aren't signed after this season. So that's a pretty big need. And both of them are kind of the same. Neither one's a true safety. Both of them are more strong safety than free safety. They're bigger guys that don't really intercept the ball. I think Chuck Clark was the only one that had an interception last year. No one else. Elliott didn't have it. He's just the hard hitter that, he's the enforcer really for the defense on the back end. So I thought it was interesting that they didn't address that. And the biggest, I would say the biggest reach on their part was taking Stevens in the 3rd or at the end of the 3rd round from SMU. I was hoping that they were going to take Jamar Johnson, the safety. That's what I was hoping for at that point. He ended up going like the 5th round. But they doubled up on with Wade, who getting him in the 5th round is a steal, like you guys mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be good. It's in good insurance because he's shown he's a lot better in the slot than he is on the outside, especially last year. And our slot corner, Tavon Young, has been injured quite a lot. So I think we have an out from his contract this year or maybe next year. So if Wade can develop this year, we might be able to move on from Tavon Young and just put Wade on the slot. So, but we had to use Humphrey in the slot for a good amount of this season, and put Jimmy Smith outside or swap both of them every so often because Tavon Young was injured. So I liked it. And then taking a Patrick Ricard clone from Ben Mason from Michigan. I think that's the 4th person that we've drafted from Michigan. So John's taking advantage of his brother Jim. So I think it was good overall. But at the same time, doubling up on wide receiver, there's only so much that they're actually going to be able to do with them. Now do they have the potential to either of them to develop into a Pro Bowl wide receiver, get 1,000 yards? Sure, but unless the Ravens completely radically change their offense, I legitimately don't think that either one of them is. I legitimately don't think a wide receiver is going to get over 1,000 yards this season. It's going to be very spread out. I mean, that's what it was in the Lamar's MVP. I think Mark Andrews had the most yards at like 850, but he still passed for over 3,000. But he's not going to focus in on one single wide receiver. But now that we have Bateman and Wallace, you can just kind of chuck it up and kind of pray. And that was kind of what Flacco did with Torrey Smith and Anquan Bolden. So, hopefully we can do something about that. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I liked it. And Odefe is an interesting prospect. I think, if anyone can make him be able to get sacks, especially with the blitz schemes that we have, it will be Wink Martindale. So I like it getting him in the end of the first.
Well, I will say one, the Ardarius Washington, granted, I mean, it's not often, undrafted free agents amount to anything, but I remember he was a guy that some had like as a top 100, prospect, kind of like near like the 80s, 90s. A lot of people had kind of like mid-round grades on him. So again, I don't know how much of amount to, but I think that was a really good undrafted free agent. Again, the fact you guys got Bateman and then Tylan Wallace, I mean, the reason he slipped, he had an awful season last year, so he slipped, I think, because of that. Where, like we said, we came to the realization that he was the Blitnikoff Award winner 2 seasons ago at Oklahoma State. So 2 solid additions. Lamar Jackson, I mean, again, like you said, just throw it up. They got, I know Sammy Watkins this offseason, so they got Lamar some really good weapons. So Connor, the Ravens better than any of us. Clearly, you went in depth on it. So we, as always, appreciate your Ravens knowledge. We appreciate your super chats. We appreciate you supporting the show. We appreciate always reading your comments and whatnot in our group message on Twitter. So again, sorry we couldn't get you on last week during the live draft, but like I said, when you're on a live stream for 4 hours, you can only take so much. So we appreciate you hopping on tonight and talking about the Ravens with us.
Maybe you should drink a little bit less, then you'd be able to last longer watching the streaming and stuff.
I should have been drinking more.
Well, especially if Aiden Book had been drafted in the first round. Oh my God, I don't think you would have woken up.
If the Saints would have been picking like at 15 or 20, and they would have passed on one of those wide receivers, the entire Tito's would have been completely consumed. And we would have been going off the rails. So you're absolutely right. So as always, Connor, we appreciate having you on. I'm sure we'll have you on at some point during the summer. So as always, thanks for your support. And like I said, thanks for taking 5 minutes out of your day to talk Ravens football with us, my man.
Yeah. Thanks, Connor.
Have a good night, guys.
Connor.
Thank you very much.
All right, my man. All right, guys. So again, Connor, you probably always see him in our chat. Always talking Ravens and whatnot. So, guys, we got about 5-10 minutes left and allows got to get going. So let's get to a few comments in the live chat. Again, you guys can ask us anything you want in regards to the NFL draft. You guys can donate super chats. Again, like Connor's been doing and a few other people have been doing for the show. That way it guarantees we answer your guys' question. Guys, this comes from Manny C. Was the Bengals passing on an offensive tackle as the first pick the worst pick of the draft? Now, this is an interesting one because obviously you're getting the number 1 wide receiver in the draft, but I think we all can agree they should have got Penei Sewell to protect Joe Burrow. So worst pick.
Here's the way to rephrase the question. Was it the worst decision of the draft? 100%. Because I think it is very important to point out Jamar Chase is already a borderline NFL superstar. Like, this guy is going to be phenomenal. Linking him up with Joe Burrow is going to be unreal. But as Cole Topham said last week on our show, he's our NFL draft expert. He's the analysis he brought on, and the best way he could have said it was that it was irresponsible for them to not take Penei Sewell when your quarterback just had a torn MCL, a torn ACL, and then other structural damage, and you take a wide receiver rather than protecting him. It was irresponsible. It was not a horrible pick. That's how I feel about it. Should have taken Penei Sewell.
100%. I think you worded that perfectly. It was the worst decision, not the worst pick. You want the worst pick. I mean, I've been sitting on this one all night.
They could have taken. They could have picked Ian Book.
I already said the worst pick. It was Ian Book in the 4th round.
Oh, well, I'm going to talk about both the Steelers and the Jaguars, of course, taking my favorite position on the football field. Now, to be fair, Blake nailed the ETN pick. Josh and I nailed the Najee Harris pick.
Hey, so did I.
I know. I said you nailed. Oh, true.
I nailed both running back picks.
So we got that right in terms of that happening. I just do not understand what thought process goes through these teams' heads, especially with ETN. Like, again, James Robinson, an undrafted rookie who in 14 games went for over 1,000 yards. You signed Carlos Hyde. There was a plethora of running backs available on day 3. Demetric Felton, Michael Carter, others that were undrafted. Kerryon Johnson was just cut. And you use a first-round pick on a running back for a team that has an abundance of needs. And you use a first-round pick on a running back. And then the Steelers, who are like, we need to get back to running the football. You just lost 3 offensive linemen. How about like draft an offensive lineman and put an offensive lineman up there instead of drafting a running back that's just going to run into a bunch of defensive tackles? Like, I stop dropping running backs in the first round, people. Like,
I understand the Najee Harris pick better than I understand the ETN pick. So I kind of like, and we had all said this, like, would I take Najee Harris with this pick? 100% absolutely not. No way. Do I get it? Kind of. I mean, they really wanted him there. It seemed like everybody was saying it. Would I have taken him? No. But I kind of get it a little bit. Like, I think he's really, really good. I think he has the highest ceiling out of a lot of these backs to be good in the NFL. But the ETN one makes no sense to me other than the fact that they simply just wanted to link him up with Trevor Lawrence again.
Yes.
Other than that, I do not get it. It does not make sense to me. You took a running back in the 1st round. You could have gone anywhere else with a second first-round pick. You had another first-round pick. You could have gone somewhere else. There were other good players on the board, and they're like, well, I mean, wouldn't it be cool?
Yeah,
if we just
I agree. I think that logic is perfect. Yes, like, I don't like either pick, but the Najee pick makes more sense than the ETN pick. Yeah. Yes.
Well, since I've fully predicted, I mean, first I said, it gets the partner great, but I jokingly said, I don't think they're going to do it in the 1st round. They're going to do it in the 2nd round because they have picked number 1 in the 2nd round, which was only 3 picks later. Listen to this, guy. So let's just say they pass on ETN there at 25. Now, again, you can make the case ETN, maybe Javonte Williams, that was RB2 in the draft, but it wasn't like teams are going to be maybe a team would have traded up. Maybe the reason they did it because they thought a team was going to trade up, but let's assume no one trades up. Following the Jags, you have the Browns. They're not taking a running back. Then you got the Ravens following. They wouldn't have taken a running back. You got the Saints after that. They wouldn't be taking a running back. You got the Packers after that. They would have taken a running back. Then you got the Bills. Maybe the Bills, even though they have Zach Moss, they have Devin Singletary, they don't desperately need a running back, but maybe that could have been a situation right there. Then you got the Ravens again, and then you got the Buccaneers. ETN literally could have been there at pick 33. Again, my only reasoning is they must have heard something that a team was going to trade up to get him, but I 95% think that he would have been there. And also, did you guys hear that Travis Etienne wasn't even the number 1 target? The guy that they were going for, apparently Urban Meyer said they were all in on Kadarius Toney. That's the guy that they wanted to get if he would have fallen to them at 25. Now, Kadarius Toney, I know he's fine and everything, but if you're the Jags, I don't think wide receivers, your biggest need right now. I know they got DJ Chark, you got Laviska Shenault, they got Marvin Jones. So even then, they would have been taking Kadarius Toney in the 1st round. I don't think they necessarily would have needed. So Urban Meyer, you had an easy slam dunk pick at number 1 with Trevor Lawrence, but your first real pick on the job, ETN, or if not, you were all in on Kadarius Toney. Interesting.
Tony probably would have been fine. Again, like there's nothing wrong with adding more weapons, but again, valuable receivers are just so much, or good receivers are so much more valuable than good running backs. But yeah, again, this
Robinson too. Like that's what makes it worse.
Again, an undrafted rookie who went for over 1,000 yards. Like that just shows how valuable.
Like the Chargers. That would have been like the Chargers going for a running back this year. Like,
yeah.
So this makes sense then. Short Run says, I heard the Bills wanted ETN. That would make sense then, but
yeah, you've got to be in a situation like the Bills, like maybe the Bucks, like the Chiefs were last year with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, where you are so loaded everywhere else that you're just taking the best player on the board. When you're the Jags and you need help on the O-line, you need help at corner, you need help pretty much everywhere else across the field except for quarterback and running back for the most part. You take the positions of more value, like take Tevin Jenkins or somebody. Yeah.
So we went from the whole Bengals situation going to the Jags situation. So, guys, before we wrap up the show, I know this was going to be a topic for us to talk about. So, pretty much overall, your favorite pick of the night, a pick that you just really liked. It could be from your team, could be from a different team. Just one, again, that it doesn't even have to be a first rounder. It could be anything. And then one pick that you thought, even though we've kind of already explained two of them, but I guess maybe go outside the box and find a third. A pick that he didn't like, a pick that overall you thought just didn't make sense. Maybe it was a reach. Something like that. So whoever wants to take the reins first, I'll let you guys take over.
I'll quickly. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I think you know. I think I know what you're going to say anyway.
Yeah, I'll just be quick since we touched on the whole Etienne Harris thing for a couple minutes there. Those were definitely my least favorite picks. If I had to pick one of the two, it'd be Etienne. My favorite pick, especially one that we haven't touched on, Rashad Bateman, or I guess Connor touched on it for a while. But again, that was just such an obvious fit. He fell further than I thought he would. Lamar needed a dependable receiver, and they got it. I think great player, great fit, great team, great system. Love that pick.
I'm going to let you guys go first because I'm coming way out of left field.
Oh, boy. Well, you guys already heard mine from earlier. I thought the Justin Fields one, I know it's kind of basic and whatnot, but I think absolutely that's a slam dunk pick, upgrade the quarterback. And then pretty much, I know they're boring, but pretty much every offensive lineman pick in the first round, the fact that Penei Sewell fell to 7, I thought that was a fantastic one. The Chargers getting Rashawn Slater, who again, a lot of people thought he could have been a top 10 pick, and I don't even think they had a trade. He just fell to them there at 13. One pick later, Elijah Vera Tucker to the Jets. Now I know the Jets traded up to get him, but again, you're getting an offensive lineman that's huge. And then the Vikings that traded back all the way to pick number 23, and they got Christian Darrisaw, which I know I had, I think, in like my top 16 when we did our mock drafts. You guys might have had him in the top 20. So all the teams that got one of those offensive linemen in the top, 20, 25 picks, I thought that was an absolutely slam dunk. And again, the worst one, yes, Ian Book, I will stand by that until he starts 10 games in the NFL, which will never happen.
One of the ones is a guy who had first round talent, was a wide receiver. I think the pairing of Rondale Moore at the Cardinals is a great fit. I think personnel wise, I think scheme wise, I think everything. He is a player that Cliff can he is a type of player that can make Cliff look like a competent offensive coordinating coach.
Better than Andy Isabella?
I'd say slightly better than Andy Isabella. And maybe like Christian Kirk level.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the ETN pick was a reach, but I do like another one I did like you guys talked about this a minute ago. I thought that Najee Harris to Pittsburgh is a great pairing as well.
I like it, yeah.
I think it's a good pairing.
No, I think it's a good fit. I just think it's
later.
A reach.
I think it's a reach. You could have gotten him later, but I think it's one of those guys where, Derrick Henry was taken top 5 and no one said that was a reach, and now you're taking a guy 20-something overall. And
Derrick Henry was a second rounder.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a
Zeke went top 5, but again, like I always preach, that was like all offensive line, at least in my opinion, or not all, but mostly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so valid. So, all right, Josh, let's hear.
It was a second rounder.
So I'll start with my bad pick. My not bad, not worse, but my least favorite. Again, like I said about the Jamar Chase pick, and with Penei Sewell not going to the Bengals, that's not a bad pick. It is my least favorite though. And I think even more so than those running backs being taken in the first round with Etienne and Harris. I think Cole was spot on when he said this last week and in his tweet and wherever else he said it. It was irresponsible for the Bengals to not protect Joe Burrow. Your Heisman Trophy winner who broke all these records, who was your number one pick that already did not have very many weapons. Obviously, T. Higgins had a good year, and he excelled even a little bit after Burrow was out. But you got to protect this guy. I mean, ACL, MCL, other structural damage, and you get a wide receiver. I get it. It's a flashy pick. It's the sexy pick. Whatever. Should have been Penei Sewell. So that's my least favorite. My favorite pick. I'm going all the way to the 6th round, okay? I'm going to the 6th round for the LA Chargers, and you guys know I'm an LA guy. I'm not a Chargers guy. Larry Roundtree at 198, I think is a phenomenal pick. And here's why. The Chargers, I'm not joking. I am dead serious. And let me explain. So last year, the whole thing was there was no preseason. So it was who is going to be the guy that slept on this season, right? The Chargers running back would not be Austin Eckler if it was not for preseason football, right? And the Chargers have also done a very, very, very good job recently of developing offensive talent, specifically at the running back position, of guys who were drafted very late or undrafted. I mean, Gordon is out of a job because of a handful of things, but also because of Austin Eckler, who would not be the running back if he was not going off in the preseason for the Chargers 2 years ago. There are other running backs. Justin Jackson was taken in the 7th round. Joshua Kelly was taken late from UCLA. They went out and signed Kalen Ballage for nothing last year when everybody else was hurt. So then they come over here and they take Larry Roundtree late, but who could legitimately get some carries this year, who scored 40 touchdowns in the SEC in his college career and had a great career in the SEC, but was overshadowed because Mizzou was horrible and because they're in the SEC and they're not going to have any success. They're thrown toward the bottom of the conference with teams like Vanderbilt and Kentucky, no offense to these schools, when it's top-heavy with running backs like Najee Harris carrying the running back spotlight in that conference. I think Larry Roundtree getting taken at 198 overall is a really good pick, especially when the Chargers have a history, at least the past few years, of developing running back talent who we were either drafted in the 6th or 7th round or undrafted entirely. So I think he could legitimately not challenge Austin Eckler, but I think he could get some carries. He is an explosive running back. He's a little undersized, but the Chargers have excelled with that in the past. So, and that goes all the way after the rest of the draft that they had. And I think Michael was the Chargers one, and Bill was the Raiders. Yeah, so Michael was with the Chargers, and he liked the Chargers draft. That's one that none of us touched on earlier. I think the Chargers had a really good draft, and I think some of it is because, you get Rashawn Slater early, and you get Asante Samuel Jr. early. But a lot of their late picks I thought were really good too, and I really like the Larry Roundtree one. I'm not joking. I really like it.
Well, one, I just like Josh is right. He came out of left field with that. I don't think anyone was expecting that. I was expecting some USC player that was mid-round or undrafted that was going to go there.
Frank Darby.
I'm also really looking forward to editing that whole take together when 2 years from now, Larry Roundtree out of NFL after receiving 0 carries in career now is working on CFL journey. He just threw together Josh's rant. So, hey, but props to you, man. Props to you.
League.
So they also took Josh Palmer from Tennessee, a wide receiver who again totally flew under the radar in the SEC because of the other wide receiving talent in that conference. And he is a pick like Larry Roundtree that if they pan out, the fact that the Chargers didn't take a wide receiver and running back earlier in the draft, like I think they wanted to, and then took Palmer in the middle rounds and then Roundtree late. If those two guys fail, this draft outside of Slater and Samuel is now going to get docked a few points. Okay, well, they didn't fill those positions. But if those two guys turn out to be good, this could be an insane draft for the Chargers.
Well, props to you because, like I said, we took the easy round, went pretty high picks, and you just say, you know what, 6th rounder Larry Roundtree, running back for the Chargers.
I'm big on that. The sleepers.
All right, guys. So that wraps up. No, Brady said he had like a question he wanted to get to really quickly, right? Yeah.
So I see short rounds in the chat right now, and I prepared this because I didn't see him in time. So short round, if you're still around, I'll give you a minute. Give me a number 1 through 6 because I have like 6 short round style questions.
5.
Oh, wow.
That I'm
5.
gonna ask. Blake, you're not short round unless.
Oh.
Well, hang on a second.
Bro, I'm just saying, man. Have you ever seen me in short round comment at the same time?
I don't know.
We're gonna get short round on the show one day, and he's gonna be wearing a mask.
Short round with his voice. All right, short
With
round
a voice
says 3.
modulator, yeah.
Short round says 3.
Great.
So I got 6 cards.
Oh, this is fantastic.
Oh wow.
Should I go 3 from the top or 3 from the bottom?
Just whatever you want.
Shuffle it, take 3 out, and then whatever the third one is. Don't look at it.
2, 3. Got it.
Okay.
Here you go. Ready? Short round, you can answer this one too. If you could only watch one actor's movies for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Hold on. Say that again. I was sending a message. Repeat that one more time.
If you could only watch one actor's movies for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Oh, easy. Sorry, guys. This is no brainer.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell from Costa de Mi Padre.
I knew it. I knew that's one.
That is the easiest pick of all time.
All right, that was Blake's question. Josh, 1 through 5.
Oh wow. Okay.
Why could I,
5.
So are they not getting the
favorite
same
number.
questions? Are they not getting the same questions?
No, we're getting different questions now.
Oh, well, then I'll guess these guys. Lyle's is easy. He's Adam Sandler with Jack and Jill at the very top, I would say. And Josh is weird. I feel like he would actually go with an actress. I think he has some actress that he's probably low key in love with. Brady, I know he'd probably do something like Seth Rogen or or something like that.
Like Seth Rogen.
Lyle, was I right on yours?
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't watch things like Hubie Halloween or Jack and Jill ever. So, I mean,
Lyle, we need you to watch Hubie Halloween because Adam Sandler literally is on record saying, if I don't get an Oscar nomination, I am going to make the worst movie ever made. And that was Hubie Halloween.
I know.
So you need to watch it to compare it to Jack and Jill.
No, I watched it. I mean, it was significantly worse. Like, I mean, I think I got through like 30 minutes of it or something. It was so bad. So bad. Yeah, I don't know. But then there are movies like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. And I mean, I guess if you just stick to those, I can stick to those.
I like you were off with me. I don't know. There's a few. I love the Will Ferrell one. Short round says Tom Hanks. I think that's a fantastic
Very
pick because
diverse.
that's a massive genre too. You got a lot of movies. I don't know. I like Harrison Ford too. I could go Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
All right, Brady. I picked 5. Favorite number.
1, 2, 3. Hang on. No free ads. This is not the Barstool card game that they released. Anyways.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. If there were stats available for every aspect of your life, what stat would you want to see?
I've
asked you this before.
Yeah, that's a good question. How many times? All right, so this is me being a sports nerd, journalism nerd, broadcasting nerd. How many times I've done play-by-play in my head for a game that I am not working?
What?
Very specific. I would love to know. A real game a real game that I'm watching that I'm not working. I would love to know how many times I've done play-by-play in my head.
All right.
That's it. All right. Should I pick one number? I guess I can go quick.
Yeah.
Give me 2, I guess. Yeah, 2.
Some of these are TV based, but I picked those because they're easier. If you had to have a theme song play every time you arrived somewhere, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one.
Jeez. See, I feel like this is one of those questions where I'm not going to give my best answer on the spot. And then I feel like a day later, I'll wake up and be like, oh, man.
They'll give it next week.
Yeah, exactly. Theme song?
Oh, I got mine.
What about, like, I feel like something like the like we always used to play the Blue Mountain State theme song. I remember that would be a funny one.
Every time you walk into a room, you're gonna hear "Give me a hell, give me a yeah." Like, that's what you're gonna hear every time you walk in.
Yes. Although I don't know if that's not really fitting for like my personality. I feel like so. I don't know. Maybe that's what would yours be? You say you know yours.
Mine would be the bass riff from Seinfeld.
See, that's what I was thinking of, because that'd be like a great entrance. But like, I'm thinking of just like a quick epic, just like the BH has arrived. Like Seinfeld, when it's kind of like, if you're walking,
it's got to be intoxicated. It's got to be intoxicated.
That one too. Yeah, that's so. Wait, Brady, what is this? It's like a Barstool game of like questions.
It's called Answer the Internet. I legit have a
that's
box of them, so I can bring some out for every show.
Bro,
No,
let's
that'd
like
be
just,
fun.
we
Yeah,
could do a
so am
show
I.
this summer where we just drink and then play those cards. Those are some like good cards on there.
Well, Lyle, if you need to leave, I got 3 more that are really good, so I'm gonna ask them anyways.
Okay.
Because we got nothing going on. If you need to leave, you can go ahead and leave.
Okay. All right. I'll give it a minute.
All right. Lyle, 1, 2, or 3?
The 1.
If you could pick any movie sidekick to be your sidekick, who would it be?
Any movie sidekick?
Or like any sidekick to be your sidekick.
I mean, there's so many Avengers you could pick. I feel like because like all those guys are technically sidekicks, and all those guys like Black Panther. I mean, I feel like that's a phenomenal sidekick. So him or like even somebody like Bucky. Like Bucky's like a little down on the totem pole in terms of the Avengers because he's just not one of the main characters, but like he's pretty lethal. So I feel like somebody like that would be a pretty
trained to kill.
Well, but then they psych him out of it. So then he's
spoilers.
Yeah, I feel like one of those guys.
Whoa.
Oh, you're right.
For me, easy.
Han Solo
R2D2.
dies.
R2D2 is the easy one for me.
I feel like baby Groot.
Yeah, I don't know.
Baby Groot would be a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I got my answer.
What is it?
What is it?
Mini Me. Austin
Oh
Powers.
boy. God.
All right.
That's
What's
all
the
we
next
need.
one? Let's do
That's
one
the
more.
last thing we need is a mini BK.
Oh, I know. What about Chewbacca?
That'd be a
good one too.
All right.
All right, so Lyle has to head out for the night. He's got something to do. Lyle, thanks for joining as always. Will you be in Seattle Thursday night for the debut of one Jared Kelenic?
Yes, I will. I hopped on those tickets so fast you wouldn't even believe it.
And has he confirmed number 10 yet?
I guess not confirmed, but basically
Better.
confirmed.
Let's hope so, Lyle.
I was telling that last night because MJ brought it up. She's like, "How does he already have a Jared Kelenic jersey?" And I was like, "Oh, he got a custom made." And she's like, "Well, what if he's not number 10?" And I said, "Well, then that's going to be freaking hilarious."
Well,
But he'll likely be number 10.
He's got 10 in his picture. He was 10 in spring training. He's 10 right now in AAA. I think he's going to be 10.
He's going to be 0-1. It's what it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Or he's going to be number 11. And if he is, you just got to put duct tape on the jersey on the side and put +1 in duct tape.
Exactly.
All right. All right. Last question.
All right, we'll enjoy the
Then
game.
We'll let everyone leave.
All right.
Left
all
or
right.
right?
All right. Left.
Our left. There you go.
This is a great question then. If you could pick any character or TV from movie to be your college roommate, who would it be?
Oh God, not Brady Klein.
No, God, no.
Bro, I'm not taking a movie. I'm just taking someone in general. Give me U of A Gronk to be my roommate. That's who I
No.
want.
No.
Yes.
No. Horrible choice. That'd be great for a week.
Yeah,
great
true.
for
You're
a
right.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lyle would probably do country star Alex Ellis.
What about Tasmanian Devil? That guy cleans stuff up so fast. That'd be like, you never have to do any cleaning.
Hey, you could take Michael from freshman year, who I literally never saw, and it's a win-win there.
Who? Oh yeah,
Exactly.
didn't I kind of move into his room second semester so I could watch hockey by myself? I locked myself in Blake's roommate's room and just watch sports. I locked myself. I didn't even talk to Blake.
LeBron from Trainwreck.
Or you were just sick and tired of me, Josh, is what it was.
Well, yeah, I didn't want Brady Klein as my roommate. I mean,
All
from
right.
the Harris Highlight Show.
Brady, give your answer, and we'll wrap up this Would You Rather show.
Rick
for the
Tamlin.
night. Oh, yes. But then I
Rick
feel like
Tam. Oh, yeah.
that's
yeah,
a
he'd
go
get annoying.
All right. So at one point, this was an NFL draft recap show, but this just went off the rails. Every Q&A does. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, you guys can follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _. We're on Instagram at Harris Highlight Show, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, in case you want to listen while you're in the gym or, doing something with your significant other. You can listen to the podcast while doing that. Take that for what it's worth. All right, guys. Any parting words before we head out for the week?
Just listen to the podcast. Don't do that.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in, as always.
Yep.
I'll see you guys in June.
Right. So, Brady,
Oh, yeah.
That's all good. As Short Round said, if only I had a significant other. It's okay, Short Round. You'll get one day. Well, for Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klein, this has been Blake Harris from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. Thank you to everyone for staying tuned. It's been a whole lot of fun. We'll see you potentially next week. If not, we'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. And let's all hope Jared Kelnick is the star that Seattle desperately needs, because if not, well,
and is number 10.
And is number 10, most importantly.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching.